Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission, as always, is pretty simple. We dive into some seriously dense source material, the kind that, well, makes your head spin, really. And we try to distill it down into something you can actually grasp. Actionable knowledge, basically.
Yeah, cutting through the noise.
Exactly. And today, we're tackling a text that doesn't just ask you to rethink history. It pretty much demands you throw out the whole established timeline.
Oh, absolutely. It's asking us to accept a universe, I guess, run by these vast interstellar conspiracies.
So what's the source itself?
Okay, so we're dissecting the core claims from a work called Who Lived Before the Adam and Eve Story. It's authored by Ahit Sent Hotep, who also went by Carla Thomas. She was a student of Netter Aferdi Itamri.
Right.
And this thing is, well, it's incredibly comprehensive. It claims up front that it deals with facts that just completely bypass, accepted religious ideas, historical dogma, all of it.
And the narrative immediately connects ancient Egypt, specifically something the source calls Tamaray, or Egypt of the West, directly to this huge ancient conflict involving extraterrestrials. But, I mean, the most jarring part right off the bat is the timeline they propose.
Oh, yeah, that's the first big shock. The source says Earth, the planet itself, is 24 million years old.
Okay.
But then modern humans, like us, we're apparently only about 5,000 years old.
Wait, 24 million versus 5,000?
Yeah.
That's an enormous gap.
It's staggering.
So if we only showed up, relatively speaking, like yesterday, who or what was here for the other 23 million plus years?
Well, the source is quite clear on that. It says life started with basic intelligent forms. Amoeba, protozoa, algae.
So not just simple life, but intelligent basic forms.
That's the implication. And it insists that various advanced forms of life existed long, long before any traditional religious story starts. It paints this picture of an evolutionary path, but one heavily defined by, well, cosmic intervention.
Okay, let's try and unpack this cosmic hierarchy then. We need to get a handle on the main players in this massive conflict. Let's start with the group the source presents as the original teachers, maybe the potential saviors, the Neteru.
Right, the Neteru. They're also called Rizakians or Anunnaki in the text. They're really the foundation of this whole cosmology. They claim they come from the 19th galaxy.
A 19th galaxy.
Yeah, which they call Ilyun. It's sort of equated to our concepts of heaven, or maybe Elysium.
And what are they like physically, does it say?
It does. They're described as pretty classically humanoid, 5 to 7 feet tall, dark reddish skin, wavy hair. And the Neteru claim they were the original architects.
Architects of what?
The pyramids, for one. And they also claim to be the figures we know as prophets in various scriptures around the world.
Okay, so they're positioned as the originators. What's their stake now? Why would they be relevant today, according to the source?
Well, their big goal now is supposedly DNA activation. They believe their descendants are here on Earth, and their DNA needs to be, like, switched on.
Activated for what?
To save them. To save them from this impending destruction that's being caused by these other antagonistic forces that have basically corrupted everything. They're trying to broadcast, like, a true signal through all the chaos.
Okay, so that brings us to the other forces, the antagonists. The source says humanity is basically caught in the middle, under the influence of two major malevolent ET factions.
Correct.
Let's start with the ones it calls the most prominent, the Greys, from Zeta Reticuli.
Yeah, the Greys. And the biological details provided are pretty fascinating and disturbing. They aren't just presented as invaders, but almost as physiologically dependent beings.
Dependent how?
They apparently need human blood and other bodily fluids just to survive, and they don't reproduce sexually. It's all asexual through cloning.
That's unpleasant. And what about mentally? The source talks about a physical difference there too, right?
It does, and it's a big one, linked to intelligence. It claims that humans, we average around 1,300 cc brain capacity. The Greys, they supposedly have a massive 2,500 cc capacity.
Whoa. 2,500 cc. That suggests it's significantly higher intellect, psychic abilities, maybe?
Potentially,
yeah.
Or at least a huge capacity for strategic planning. And another bizarre detail, they apparently don't have a normal digestive system. They absorb food particles right through their skin.
Through their skin? How does that even work biologically? That just seems completely outside our understanding.
Right. It points to maybe a radically different evolutionary path, or perhaps some kind of, artificial modification even.
Okay, so you have these dependent cloned Greys with huge brains. Who's pulling their strings?
That would be the reptilians, according to the source.
The reptilians,
Yeah.
also called Dracos or Valkyns, coming from Orion, the sixth star constellation.
That's them. And Physically, they're described as pretty imposing. 6 to 7 feet tall, tough green skin, scaly, and importantly, they're cold-blooded and don't have sweat glands.
Why is that important?
The source suggests that's why they need controlled environments like underground bases to operate effectively. They've got these long hands with 3 fingers, apparently, and are described as aggressive carnivores, eating human and animal flesh.
Grim.
Yeah. And the chain of command, according to this text, is crystal clear. The reptilians are in charge of the Greys.
Okay, so we have the Neteru, the sort of benevolent ancients, then the reptilians calling the shots, using the Greys. How does the source explain, the existence of religion, all the different faiths across the globe?
Well, this is where it gets really controversial. The source basically accuses the reptilians and Greys of manufacturing religion.
Manufacturing, not just influencing or corrupting, but actually creating them?
That's the explicit claim.
Hmm.
Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, all of them supposedly fabricated.
For what purpose?
Control, essentially. To control the population, ensure blind allegiance. And this is a key phrase in the text Stop Critical Thinking, to create tunnel vision. It argues that the original concept taught by the Neteru, which was about plural gods or Elohim, was deliberately distorted into this idea of a single, all-powerful controlling god by these hostile ETs to cement their power.
Okay, this is where it gets really intense, because the source doesn't frame this as some ancient history or future threat. It claims the invasion is happening now.
Oh, yeah.
And has been for decades, even with the support of governments here on Earth.
Exactly. It claims it's an ongoing reality. The source details what it calls the Greys' horrific objective, a plan to systematically reduce Earth's population by 75%.
75%? How?
It explicitly names biological weapons, specifically citing AIDS and Ebola as being engineered for this purpose. The end goal is supposedly to get the population down to a more manageable 25% for easier conquest.
So they can what? Just take over?
And use the planet as a resource base, primarily for cloning and biological materials, it seems.
And you mentioned governments. The source claims the U.S. government wasn't fighting this, but collaborating.
That's the core of the conspiracy claim. It alleges the U.S. government actually made treaties with the Tall Greys, who are often linked to or are the reptilians themselves.
Treaties? When?
Specific dates are given. 1934, then again in 1964 and 1972. The deal was basically the government gets advanced technology, and in return they turn a blind eye, promise non-interference in alien abductions.
Abductions. And this whole thing was supposedly overseen by that group you hear about in UFO circles, Majestic 12?
The notorious Majestic 12. The source doesn't shy away from naming names either.
Like who?
It lists people like Admiral Rocco H. Hillenkoetter, Secretary James V. Forstall, General Hoyt S. Vandenberg, Dr. Detlev Bronk. Quite a list of prominent mid-century figures.
That's quite the accusation against historical figures.
And it gets even more specific and dramatic. The source claims President Kennedy was assassinated in 1963 by an android or a Terminator-like figure.
An android? Why?
Because according to this text, Kennedy was about to blow the whistle. He intended to reveal the whole ET cover-up, the treaties, everything, to the public.
Okay, that is redefining 20th century history with a vengeance. If these agreements started way back in 1934, what kind of technology are we talking about? The source must mention specifics.
It does, and it points directly to a very famous name, Nikola Tesla.
Tesla. How does he fit in?
The source claims Tesla was actually in contact with extraterrestrials way back, starting around 1923 AD, and that he was the one who designed the generators for that infamous Philadelphia experiment.
Ah, the USS Eldridge invisibility experiment in 1943.
Exactly, based on ET technology he'd received access to.
But that experiment went horribly wrong, didn't it? At least according to the legends. How does this source describe the failure?
Catastrophically wrong. It blamed something called a zero-time reference disruption. It wasn't just the ship vanished. Some crew members were apparently thrown violently into hyperspace.
Thrown into hyperspace?
Yeah. And others were left in this horrifying state called deep freeze, literally embedded, fused into the metal hull of the ship. Just nightmarish stuff.
Good grief.
And this massive failure supposedly led Dr. John von Neumann, who the source also lists as part of Majestic 12, by the way,
Of course.
to try and stabilize the technology later using computer systems. This effort became known as the Phoenix Project.
Okay, so the conspiracy deepens, the technology exchange leads to disaster. And this brings us to the really dark side of this deep dive, the underground operations.
Right, where the alleged collusion between the Greys and this establishment shifts from secret treaties to, well, Horrifying practice.
The source names specific locations for these bases, doesn't it?
It does. It identifies key underground operational centers, noting that these places often line up with areas known for high UFO sightings and weird gravitational anomalies. We're talking huge underground facilities.
You're specifically.
Dulce, New Mexico, is named as a major one. Groom Lake, Nevada, Area 51, essentially. And it mentions others spread across Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, Nevada, a whole network.
And the details about the Dulce base, they're particularly gruesome, right?
Yeah.
Especially about genetic work.
Yeah, the description of Dulce is probably the most chilling part of the entire document. It claims the base houses over 18,000 beings.
Yeah.
Big-headed grays and tall reptilian humanoids.
18,000. Underground.
That's the number given. And the source focuses intensely on level 7 of this base.
Level 7. What supposedly happens there?
It's claimed it's designated for storing biological material.
What kind of biological material?
Human children and adults,
Mm.
allegedly kept in cages or maybe suspended in vats. The text uses this specific awful phrase, human-like creatures, fetuses, floating in some kind of amber-colored fluid.
This is monstrous.
It's incredibly disturbing. The source claims the facility runs a disposable biology department, just performing relentless experiments on abducted humans.
To produce what? What's the point of all this horror?
To produce entities deemed expendable, it seems. All serving the Grey's main purpose, genetic breeding.
So their whole conquest plan hinges on creating some kind of hybrid species.
Seems so. Using DNA from cattle and from humans to create these hybrid creatures, the source even categorizes them. Type 1, which are more human-like, and Type 2, which are more Greys-like.
And this ramped up after Kennedy.
That's what it claims.
Yeah.
That this whole genetic program really intensified after Kennedy's assassination in '63, suggesting the cover-up was primarily about protecting the infrastructure for these secret labs.
Okay. So we've gone from ancient cosmology to modern conspiracy, secret treaties, horrific underground labs. Where does this leave us? What does this all mean for the future, according to this source?
Well, the narrative shifts again from this ongoing secret war to a looming planet-wide threat. The cosmic clock, as you put it earlier, is ticking.
How so?
The document brings up Nibiru, also known as Wormwood in some contexts.
Nibiru,
Yeah.
Planet X, always lurking in these theories.
Right, but here it's described not just as a planet, but as movable throne, or Merkabah, a celestial vehicle, almost.
From where?
Originating from the star system Aldebaran, apparently. And it's currently in its 3rd recorded pass near Earth.
And these passes,
Yeah.
they happen regularly.
Every 24,000 years, according to the text. And each passage is linked directly to massive geophysical upheavals on Earth.
Okay, so what are the immediate consequences the source predicts for this pass?
It's pre-traumatic.
Yeah.
The gravitational effects of Nibiru's passage are blamed for causing a global pole shift,
A pole shift.
which in turn will melt the ice caps, leading to massive worldwide flooding. The source talks about sea levels rising potentially 20 feet, maybe more.
20 feet.
And it connects this directly to current events. It suggests that the extreme weather we're seeing now, El Niño events, intense floods, powerful cyclones, aren't just random climate fluctuations. They're supposedly direct results of Nibiru's gravitational pull getting stronger as it approaches.
Wow. So impending doom via flood and pole shift. Is there any hope offered? Any way out?
Well, yes. And that brings us back full circle to the benevolent netter we started with.
Ah, the original teachers. They have a role to play in the end game.
According to the source, yes. They've supposedly been present, observing, or perhaps subtly intervening since around 1970 AD. Their purpose now is very specific, to save their descendants.
The ones whose DNA needs activating.
Exactly. But only those who can tune in to the true signal they're broadcasting. Survival isn't just physical, it's about achieving a certain vibrational alignment.
Tune in, like, literally.
It uses phrases like tuning into the tone of the universe or connecting to a signal station that's supposedly emanating from Nibiru itself. The idea is that this alignment allows individuals to transcend the control systems, like the fabricated religions imposed by the Greys and reptilians.
So the end of the world isn't fire and brimstone. It's more like choosing the right frequency.
That's a good way to put it. It frames the final conflict in terms of spiritual and genetic destiny. On one side, you have the Greys who, if their main conquest plan fails, have a backup, harvest souls, and relocate them for what the text calls advanced schooling, basically continued exploitation.
And the alternative.
The source mentions other benevolent beings, specifically Procyon from Procyon. They apparently offer genuine assistance for human development, even suggesting interbreeding to strengthen the human race against these threats. So it presents a stark choice: spiritual awakening and potential advancement, or becoming a perpetual resource for hostile entities.
Man, this entire narrative, I mean, starting with ancient Egyptian cosmology as a sort of blueprint for an alien war, running through secret government treaties in the 30s, 60s, 70s, the Kennedy assassination link, those horrific level 7 labs under Dulce, it paints a picture of a universe that's just so much more interconnected and, frankly, way more terrifying than anything in standard history books.
Yeah, it really does. The source basically takes almost every major conspiracy theory of the last 70 years and weaves them into this single, massive, cohesive narrative. And its core assertion is that the establishment, as it calls them, knew about ETs and were preparing for this scenario way back, at least since the Philadelphia experiment in 1943.
Which leaves us, and you, the listener, with a pretty unsettling final thought. If you were to entertain, even for a moment, the idea that Earth is considered an ancient space trade route and a site for relentless, ongoing genetic manipulation, just as this source suggests, what's the first piece of accepted history, something you learned, something you take for granted, that you'd start to question? What domino falls first in your mind?
That's definitely something to chew on as you navigate the noise out there.